Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printing, so far we have seen so many patterns. In this video, we will see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So if you could carefully observe this pattern, in every single column, we have a specific alphabet. In this column, we have A, in this column, we have B, in this column, we have C, like that. As and when the columns are increases, this particular alphabets is also increases. Apart from that, this particular pattern having in terms in the reverse direction. So in the first row we have five alphabets, in the second row we have four alphabets, like that. As and when the rows are increasing, the number of alphabets are decreasing, like that. In this pattern having this kind of a unique shape. So let us go ahead and see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So in order to print this particular pattern, as we can observe, we have five rows, right? So for that reason, I will take a variable rows and I will assign the value 5 here. So after that, what we will be doing is that in order to keep track of these alphabets, we will start with alphabet A, which is the starting alphabet in this pattern, right? So for that reason, we will be taking a variable which is alpha and assign this particular alphabet. So one thing we need to realize is that we cannot directly keep track of these alphabets. So for that reason, what we will be doing is that we will convert these particular alphabets to its equivalent integer numbers, which is ASCII codes, and keep track of them. So if you don't know about these ASCII codes and how to convert these alphabets to its equivalent integer numbers, watch my first video about alphabets pattern printing, where I have explained how we can convert alphabets into equivalent ASCII codes and more about ASCII codes. So you can watch that video so that you can understand it clearly. So in this video, we will be having some information. So in order to print this particular pattern. So in order to do that, in order to convert this particular alphabet to its equivalent integer number, we will be using a specific method in Python, which is ORD. So by using this ORD method, we can convert this particular alphabets to its equivalent integer number. So for that reason, I am mentioning this particular alphabet A inside of this particular ORD method so that we can able to get the equivalent integer number. So now in order to generate this many number of rows here, we will be using a for loop. So for I in range, so we will be generating the range of values, and the range of values that we will be generating here is, you can observe this pattern, and by observing this pattern you can tell how what are the range of values we need to generate. So in the first row we have five alphabets, in the second row we have four alphabets, in the third row we have three alphabets, like that these alphabets is having, right? So for that reason we will be starting with the value 5 and go till the value of 1. So for that reason I am mentioning the starting value as rows and the ending value is 0. So by the functionality of this range, it will be stopped at the value 1. So if you don't know about this range function, or even to understand more about this range function, watch my video about range function where you can understand more clearly. So inside of this for loop, I will just print the value I so that to know what values we have got. So before that, what we need to do is that in this range function itself, we need to mention -1 because we are trying to reduce the values, right? So for that reason only, I am mentioning -1. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the pattern, we can able to get the numbers, that is what we have expected, right? So which are 5 4 3 2 1. So now we have got this many number of rows here. So the only thing we need to do is that we need to generate this many number of values in each row. The first row we need to generate 5 values, which is a b c d e. In the second row we need to generate 4 values, which is a b c d. So like that we need to generate this many number of values or alphabets in every single row. So in order to generate, these are repeating statements, right? So the generation of every single value in every single row are repeating, right? So for that reason, we will be using loops when we have repeated statements. So for that reason, I will use one more loop inside of this for loop for j in range. So now we need to generate those many number of range of values which are starting with 1 and going till the value of how many number of values we have got in I. So for that reason, I am starting with 1 and going till the value of I plus 1. So now inside of this for loop, instead of printing this particular I will print the value alpha. So this alpha having the integer value. So before directly printing this alpha, we will format this pattern a little bit so that we can able to get the exact pattern. For that, I am mentioning this end with a single space. After that, after completion of this inner for loop, I will print a new line to get this exact pattern. So for that reason, I am printing this particular new line character. So now if I execute this, we can able to get this particular numbers here. So if you don't understand why I am mentioning this particular end here and new line character here, watch my any video about numbers pattern printing. So where I have explained it clearly how we can generate this particular patterns, any patterns. So by formatting this particular way, by mentioning this end and by mentioning particular new line character, so that you can understand more clearly in those videos. So now what we need to do is that we need to convert these alphabets of integer value to actual alphabet. So to do that, what I will be doing is that we will be using a specific method in Python which is CHR. So by using this CHR method, we can actually convert the integer values to its equivalent alphabets. So for that reason, I am passing this alpha to CHR method. So now if I execute this, we can able to get everything of A here, the respective positions. So now we not only want A, we need to want this particular pattern, right? So for that reason, we need to do some modification in this code and so that we can able to get the pattern. So the modification we need to do is that here we are initializing this alpha outside of this all for loops. So in order to get this particular pattern, we need to initialize this alpha inside of this outer for loops, because in every single row you can observe we are starting with A. The next row we are starting with A. In the next row we are starting with A. So in every single row we are starting with A, right? So this inner for loop is responsible to print all these values in these rows. So for that reason, we need to start with A. So for that reason, we need to mention this particular alpha in the outside of this for loop, so that this inner for loop can take this particular alpha which is starting of A, so that it will continuously print these values. So I hope you can understand why I am mentioning this particular alpha outside of this for loop. So now what I will be doing is that we need to increase this alpha, right? So in every single row, the alpha is keeps increasing. So for that reason, inside of this for loop, I will increase the value of alpha here. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the exact pattern. That is what we have expected here, right? So now I hope you can able to understand this logic to generate this pattern. So now what we will be doing is that we will be dynamically take input of these rows and print the pattern accordingly. So for that reason, I am mentioning int input. I am asking user to enter rows here. So now if I execute this, was asking me to enter rows. Let's say I will give the number 4 here. We can able to get the pattern. That is what we can expect with 4. So let's say I will give the number 7 here. So still we can able to get the pattern this format. So now I hope you can able to understand this logic to generate this kind of a pattern by any number given by the user. So if you got any confusion while generating this pattern, I sincerely suggest you to watch the video once again carefully so that you can understand the logic clearly. Apart from this only logic, I sincerely suggest you to watch my numbers pattern printings so that you can able to understand a specific pattern how to print a specific way. So having said that, let us go ahead and see in the next video how we can actually print this particular pattern. So to stay updated with my latest videos, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to all so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. So if you found this video interesting, hit the like button. See you in the next one.